How many people dropped out of your class when you did it before?
A lot more.
All right, let me pray. Okay. Let me pray for us, and then we'll get going. Father, I thank you for these men, Lord. I thank you, and I ask that you would strengthen them with divine might in their inner man, Lord, that they would know the love that you have for them. You would make their feet firm and stable, Father, and help them to be able to stand and to follow your voice, Lord. And Father, help me to hear you in this class, to follow your leading and what you want said and done, Lord. In the name of Jesus, amen. Thank you. All right, so everybody has a handout. So we're going to read through this this handout, and what we'll do is we'll start. Alex, you'll read the first paragraph there where it says lesson, starting with mindsets, and you'll read down to that bottom of that first paragraph. And then Michael, you'll read the next paragraph, and Patrick the next one after that, and we'll just work our way around. Yep.
Lesson, mindsets, thinking about potential and understanding value. In a word, a mental inclination or disposition or a frame of mind. Your mindset is a collection of thoughts and beliefs and shape your thought habits. And your thought habits affect how you think, what you feel, and what you do. Your mindset impacts how you make sense of the world and how you make sense of you. Another way of expressing the word mindset is your way of thinking.
One's way of thinking shapes not only the way they view the world around them, but also their own feelings about themselves and their own view of their potential. Things they believe to be possible and things they believe to be out of their control.
Patrick?
Potential can be defined as having or showing the capacity to become developed into something in the future. Latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness. Possibility of something happening or someone doing something in the future. Similar terms are possibly, likely, prospective, future, probable, budding, in the making, latent, embryonic, unrealized, undeveloped prospects. Can we keep going?
No. Jess, why don't you pick up from there?
When one thinks about one's potential, they're in essence determining the things which they believe that can happen. Growth mindset and the things which cannot happen. Fixed mindset. Transiting from a fixed mindset. Is that correct?
It should be transitioning.
Okay. Transitioning from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset is one of the important steps in becoming the man you want to be in 5 years, and also your vocational and employment opportunities, not just the economics of current employment.
Growth may be defined as able to become more than it currently is, the process of developing or maturing physically, mentally, or spiritually, the process of increasing in amount, value, or importance, the ability to change in a positive way.
Fixed may be defined as unmovable or unchangeable, fastened securely in position, castrate or spray, an animal, neuter.
As an employee, it's important to understand the economics of your employment. It's also important to understand the value, money, you create when you work. This understanding will not only enable you to gauge how your employer evaluates your performance, but also empower you to negotiate future pay increases. If your employer is not making much money on your work product, you may not have a job for long. If, on the other hand, you are creating profit, then there's more money to share with the people who create it.
Part one, the cost of employment. It is important to understand that there are more costs to having an employee than just the wages he is paid per hour.
Okay, hold on. Let's stop here for a second, and we'll come back and start over then. Let's go and think back about this first part we read. Does anybody have any thoughts on this first part which we just finished reading?
I just think that, like, I think it has a lot of how you grew up. Like for me, I grew up on a farm and stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, so I had a really good work ethic and stuff that my foster dad had taught me. So I think when they talk about thoughts and beliefs that shape your thought habits, like that's how you grew up, like you
Mhm.
know how you were raised and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that's what I got out of that.
Okay.
Hopefully they were good. You know, they were good work habits and stuff.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people grew up like that, though. So.
Yeah. Part of these exercises and these lessons is starting to think about how to change your mindset, because everyone has a mindset. Everyone has a belief system. Okay. Sometimes there are things in that belief system that need to be changed, and so first off, I mean, it's an understanding of there's certain things that I believe that I don't think I want to change. And so it's a question of changing those belief systems, those thought patterns, and how to identify them, and then to begin to change them. So some of these exercises are and lessons are really intended to do that, and kind of help you to see a way to be able to start thinking differently. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right.
At the bottom where it's talking about shaping your mindset and beliefs, thoughts and beliefs, shaping how I view things around me,
Mm-hmm.
and then also your own feelings about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and like my own feelings about myself and my potential. That's huge. If I think I'm a piece of crap, then everything I touch is gonna be a piece of crap, you know?
Yeah.
If I feel like if I have a little self-esteem, a little bit of confidence, maybe, then I expect to produce likewise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty critical, you know. If I think I'm bad at something, then it's sort of like a sport. If I suck at this sport, I don't want to play it.
Yeah.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like,
Yep.
why would I want to play you? So I can just confirm that I suck at it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if I've got these kind of mindsets about myself that are not positive, then it's detrimental for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise. But it's also valuable to know, because it's like, okay, I know I don't belong in that work field,
Yeah.
or I know I do belong in this. So some things we're just not cut out to do. Nice.
Watch it, buddy.
How about me?
All right. I'm sorry. Go
We'll
ahead.
get stabbed right in the fucking face.
I don't think he knows who it was.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Hey, Jared.
Jared.
Hey, Jared.
Jared.
It's all right.
Pretty loud.
It's all right. Okay. I'm sorry. I distracted.
That's all right. That's a good one. That's just it. I mean, it helps me also know where I do and don't belong,
Yeah.
but I need to find that growth mindset, not be stuck in the fixed, unmovable, unchangeable, for sure.
Oh, my
Yeah.
bad, John.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because that's true. That's true. All those things are true. Okay. So when you think of the term potential, what thoughts or ideas come to mind?
Growth.
Say it again?
When you think of the term potential, what thoughts or ideas come to mind?
More money.
Because let me just say, this is not limited to your thoughts about work. This is potential in life. This is potential in who you want to be in 5 years. This is potential in your opportunities, things you believe to be opportunities for you.
A lot of things that really come to mind. I really think with my feelings, I'm trying to get out of that, but it's a positive feeling when I hear that word.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of emotions come out with me instead of thoughts or words or anything.
Yeah.
And I think the sky's the limit type of feeling when
Yeah.
I hear the word
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone
Feels
else?
good.
Alex, you got anything?
Yeah, just, just basically what you're capable of. In life, not just work, just life, and I think that when you start, for people in our situation, I've had parts and bits of success in my life, but when I go back on drugs and alcohol, it goes all down the drain. But I think part of that for us too with potential is just staying on track and staying focused and staying sober.
Yeah,
That's part of it too,
yeah,
because you're not up to your potential when you're doing those things.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Okay, how about when you think of the term growth? What thoughts or ideas? Maturity,
Consistency.
consistency.
New beginnings.
Growth in Christ, in the scripture,
Yeah.
Yeah.
growth in the Lord.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Those are all good.
Okay. How about fixed?
Stuck.
When you think of, sorry, what?
Stuck.
Stuck.
Fixed. What?
One of the definitions they gave when I was looking it up, which I thought was funny, and I left it in there, is castrated or spayed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. I need to follow along here. Yeah.
Because it's like, it's one way. That is a term that's
Yeah.
used. It's fit.
Right.
That dog's fixed.
Got your balls cut off and.
Yeah.
pretty much stuck.
Oh, your old
stuck.
lady, your old lady can't have a kid no
Got
more?
the cat neutered.
Yeah.
and
She got,
chicks.
what's that surgery, or what did that call it? I can't even think of it now.
Yeah.
Did it take
I
your
think
ears
it's
out
like a
of it?
scam
Probably
also.
second, no, that's for a dude, right?
Yeah. That was one of the definitions of scam. Like that game's fixed.
Yeah.
That was one of the
Fixed securities, fixed
I
income.
was thinking
Yeah.
rigged for a minute there.
rigged.
Oh.
Like on a fixed income. If you're retired, you have a fixed income. It means that income's not going to change. It's going to stay the same.
Decrease
Doesn't.
because of inflation.
Yeah. In reality, that is getting smaller over time. All right, so let's go. So thank you. Is there any other thoughts on that before we move to the next part?
No, where is it? We're at it as an employee. No, we're past that too.
We're going to start at part one, the cost of
Right.
employment. So this lesson has two parts to it, really. One of which just deals with thinking about potential and opportunity and things of that nature.
Let's, you want me to start here, part one, or what?
Yeah, why don't you start there? Yeah, why don't you start there?
Part one, the cost of employment. It's important to understand that there are more costs to have an employee than just the wages he is paid per hour. And that when you are working, you should be creating value, money, in some way. If a business is losing money on your employment, either because of the cost of employing you or because the amount of value you create is so low, you won't be employed long or none exist.
What?
Yeah, you're on the second paragraph on part one.
I'm messing with you.
First, let's examine the cost of your employment. As an example, let's say that you're paid $15 per hour with no benefits. Your employer must pay an additional $5 per hour to the government in the form of Social Security and the other taxes, workers' comp insurance, and any state local costs, as well as business liability insurance. If you receive employer-provided health insurance, paid time off, or other benefits, these would also be additional costs to your employer. So the cost of your employment in our example is actually about $20 per hour. If the men I employed I also provided equipment and supplies which amounted to about $100 for equipment and about $3 per day in supplies.
Now, do the math. If you are contracted at $25 an hour rate, how much does your employer make per day? $25 your contracted rate minus $20 hourly cost equals $5 per hour times 8-hour workday equals $40 per day. Minus $3 supplies equals $37 daily profit. This means this does not include recouping the cost of the equipment. If your employer is only making $5 an hour on your labor, that's not much. If you have a bad hour or a bad day, then you can end up losing money. An employer is going to want to make more than that. when I had employees, I wanted to make at least $10 an hour for their labor. In this example, that would be 50% profit over the cost of employment. Anything less than that, and I feel like if I could have worked a few extra hours to complete the job and take the whole myself.
All right.
Did you, and where did you get these numbers from? What, do you know?
You mean like the additional cost to employment other than your pay?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, how did you come up with these numbers? Just like random, or, I mean, that's just
I'm an
average?
employer.
Yeah. No,
So-
I'm saying, that's where.
What do you mean by, which numbers are you talking
What
about?
line of business? I mean, is that?
I wash windows. I have a
Okay.
window cleaning
So
business.
that's what you use for this? Was
Yeah,
my-
that's basically what I used, and this came about because I took a lot of different guys on jobs. I would take guys on jobs when they were coming out,
Right.
so they could make some money and meet some trades and maybe get a job with a trade or something like that.
Okay.
And I would pay them at the end of the day. And a lot of them never understood that there is a cost to the employment other than what I'm paying you, what you're
Right.
getting paid. There's Social Security taxes, there's other, governmental taxes, there's workers' comp insurance. That workers' comp insurance varies.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Doing.
Yeah. That can actually be a lot higher than $5 an hour cost, depending on what type of work you're doing. That
And
can-
I'm not saying anything about, I was just wondering where.
No,
you
no,
got
no.
numbers from and what
So
line of business.
this is my experience. Like, I'm an employer, I've employed people,
Right.
and I have 2 guys that are out working right now. So this is an average, and I wanted this to be, so I pay them $15 an hour, and then they get bonuses and stuff like that based on their work. And if they get a tip, then that's their tip. And we did a job the other day that was a multiple day job, and I gave them 10% of the profit of that. But anyway, so I'm an employer. I also wanted to keep these in a way that math would be real simple and not complex.
So really, you didn't make nothing, you made exactly what your workers are making, basically.
Well, if I'm
Maybe less.
if I'm working, so I definitely have had jobs where I took workers on jobs and I lost money
Yeah,
on them, and I made less money than I would have made had I just gone by myself. Okay, so let me just show you.
I'm really glad I read this, because I felt, not the best of moods at some points.
Yeah.
and I'm really glad I read this, and now I kind of feel bad for some of the employers I've had.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you got something I'll ask because it's not that important. Go ahead and do it. I don't want you to
Okay.
forget it.
All right, no, that's fine. All right, so so if I work by myself, and this is going to be pretty, these are going to be real numbers that I'm using here. Okay, depending on the type of job, and I used to do a lot of construction cleans. So a home builder would build a house, and then they would call me to clean the windows at the very end. I did a lot of that. So I would make somewhere around 35 to 40 an hour doing that by myself.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so that would be here. That would be right there.
That's pretty dang good.
Ain't bad. Okay, and then and I had guys that I would take on jobs, and I'm paying them 15 an hour, all right? Okay, so, that's over here. Okay, I had guys that were so slow in their work, or that their work was so poor that I had to go back and redo so much of their stuff, that I lost money on their work. So instead of making more, up here, 45 to 50 an hour, which was my goal, I lost money on them. So let's say that I paid them 15 an hour, and they actually worked at about a $12 an hour rate. So then I lose $3 an hour on them, and then it slows me down. So I'm not working at a $35, $40 an hour rate. I'm working at, say, 30 to 40, or 30 to 35. So I'm actually making about 27 to 32 an hour. So I figured I could come here by myself. I don't need this guy here. Slow me down. The only thing that drove it at that point was that I had so much volume that I had builder work every day that I had to do. So
You
so
have to have guys.
I had to have guys. So actually, my profitability went down. Like, I made less money. So this chapter here is based on this experience. And then I would talk to him and say, hey, you know what? I'm paying you 15 an hour, but it really cost me 20 an hour, and you're working at a $12 an hour rate, so I'm losing $8 an hour on your work. And so that's where that came from. And I know this is a little messed up.
Do you do high-rise buildings and stuff too?
No.
You guys
I'm not stepping off the edge of a building.
Yeah.
I stay on the ground. So that's something to think about. When you're at a job, your cost per hour, what they're paying you, is not their total cost. There's an additional cost to that. And this was not, and in the next little part, that doesn't include benefits or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, you're right in that I would be making, if I sent a guy out to do a job and I didn't go myself, I'd be making less than he was. But I normally went with them. So the two guys I have now, I send them out by themselves and they work, and I make money on whatever I bid for that job, minus what I'm, yeah. But I don't. There's times that I've done really, really well in a day, and there's times that it's like, wow, I really didn't make much today, where I lost money.
Well, and the idea is you're over here making 35 to 40 at this job.
Yeah.
You got two guys over here that you're paying 15 that are
Yeah.
trustworthy, that you
Yeah.
can depend on.
Yeah.
That knock it out. So say you're making $5 an hour per guy throughout the day. It's 160 plus your wage over here.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
and
of course, that's the idea.
that's the idea. And that's the idea.
Materials.
Yeah, and let me say, I own my ladders. I own all the equipment. I don't have to buy new equipment for it, or rarely have to buy new equipment. I do have to buy some supplies
What about gas
periodically.
and vehicles? Do
This doesn't include that. And I on most jobs I get my guys lunch. So we'll go to the grocery store, we'll get sandwiches, we'll go to the job, we'll stay at the job. And to me, it's worth buying lunch and staying at the job than losing time during the day. Because, I mean, I can only do this when the sun's up. Like, I can't do this at night. So during the summer, we did some big apartment complexes and retirement communities and stuff like that. And after working 8 hours of doing that, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to
So
leave.
you guys do 2, 3 stories just as long as y'all.
4
hang out
stories.
for it? 4 is how you go? That's pretty
4.
That's up there, huh?
Yeah.
That's up
Have people that take things from you or give you a bad reputation for your job. That all plays into it too.
That plays in it to some. I haven't had that problem. I have had workers, and I have good workers right now. So I just want to be clear about that. I have had bad workers in the past that I fired, or that, I wrote a book about this.
Yeah.
So I had workers that were like, man, this is no good. This ain't gonna work.
How long you been in town here?
10 years,
10 years.
10 and a half
So you've been
years.
going for 10, huh?
And I've been washing windows for 7.
What did you do in Oklahoma?
I was a kid.
Oh.
Yeah.
What part?
Oklahoma City. Yeah. So I left, I was nothing good, nothing worthwhile in Oklahoma. All right, so does anyone else have any questions about sort of this cost of employment thing?
Kind of went off on a tangent, but
Yeah, no, that's good question. That's a good question, because you can, as an employer, you can definitely lose money on an employee. And I guarantee you, as an employer, if you have an employee that is consistently losing money or underperforming, they won't be there very long. Because a business is a business. It's there to make money. And you have to think about, in one way, you have to think about, I don't live this way, but your employer has stuff that they like to do. Okay? So they are an employer so that they can do the stuff they want to do, so they can live the life that they want to live. So they can have a boat, or they can get braces for their kids, or take them on vacation, or something like that.
Yeah.
And, they're not going to say, oh, I'll keep this guy around that's going to cost me my boat just to keep him around.
Right.
That ain't going to happen.
I'm in construction, so I've been doing concrete structures now for like the last 10 years, and I mean, you see guys that don't make it all the time doing that kind
Yep.
of work.
Yep.
You know?
That's hard work.
Yeah.
That's hard work. Window cleaning is, there's parts of it that can be hard, but I've been at, 1,000 construction sites probably.
Yeah.
And, those guys pouring concrete, that's hard work.
I don't do flat work.
Yeah.
I go vertical, but yeah,
Yeah.
It's still tough. It's
Yeah.
got a lot of rebar and
Yeah.
set forms.
Yep.
Highway.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions about this little part here? Because we're going to do a little exercise in a minute on it also. All right. So let's read the next part. Michael, why don't you pick up?
Now let's examine what you're really actually doing when you work. When you work, you should be in some form or fashion creating value for yourself and your employer. Your value to your employer is going to increase or decrease depending on how well and efficiently and quickly you do your job. So let's say I charge $1.50 per window to clean windows. If my employee washed 10 windows per hour, he created $15 per hour in value. In this example, I would lose $5 per hour on his employment. For me to break even, my employee would need to wash 13.3 windows per hour, $20 divided by $1.50 per window. This example is not going to translate to every type of job, but the underlying idea does. Most businesses are going to want to make more per hour on your labor than you cost them. None will want to make less. As an employee, you need to understand both the cost of your employment and how you are creating value for your employer.
Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, and the goal of this is to get you to start thinking about two things. One of which is what you're doing. And like I said, in this example doesn't translate to everything. If you're working in the warehouse, or if you work in a warehouse anywhere and you're being paid, it's hard to really gauge how you're creating value because you're driving this forklift and you go get this pallet and move it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation to have with your employer about expectations and what they're looking for in a proactive way, meaning you start the conversation with your employer, your supervisor, so you understand what their expectations are. Yes?
Realistically, how many employers, in your experience, would be truthful about these type of numbers and stuff, and how many would, even if they are a truthful person, which most of them I'm sure are,
Yeah.
would divulge in this information?
Probably not many, because the next conversation is, and I need a raise. But it's good for you, whether they're going to disclose that information or not, if you start thinking this way, and then you have a conversation with your employer about expectations and productivity and things of that nature. If they're making more money on you, okay, so I gave my guys a 10% bonus, which I mentioned to you guys, okay? Mm-hmm. Part of that was because I saw, was like, you know what, I'm paying them $15 an hour. When we do these big buildings, I'm making a lot of money. And so I thought, you know what, I want to be fair with them. I want to incentivize them.
That's a good bonus.
And so I told them, I'll give you 10% of the profit. I mean, I'm going to pay you guys, and then I'm going to get lunch and whatever, supplies and whatever else it is. And I'm going to give you 10% of the bonus. Part of that was because I was making a lot of money, and I thought I should share this. Okay, and if you're having a conversation with your employer, your manager about what their expectations are, how productive do you need to be, things like that, they're gonna, they should want to share that. And if you understand these metrics, so for window cleaning, it's simple because I know exactly what everything
And
is.
that 13.3, that's pretty, for like on the buildings you're talking about, the bigger, if they're cleaning 13 windows an hour, that's pretty good.
No, they would do it. So I've told my guys they need to be able to wash 20 windows an hour.
Okay.
And I've told them, you need to be able to hit this number, and that includes ladder work and sometimes you can go faster than that. Sometimes stuff is a little more difficult and it's a little bit slower, but it's an average.
And I'm not trying to ask.
No,
I'm just
that's
trying
fine.
to learn more about what you do. I mean, that's because I thought that number was pretty low, and I'm just thinking.
So at a construction job, first off, I charge at
I'd say
construction.
that's pretty good. You're cruising along all right if you're doing 20 windows.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, you're talking about one window every 3 minutes.
That's
So
cruising along.
on the inside, so I can do, because at a private house, on the inside of a house, I can do about 30 windows an hour.
On the inside.
Inside and maybe an average.
That's pretty dang good. I mean,
Yeah, on
that's
a-
good.
So at a private home by myself, and I blew my knee out, so I don't do this anymore. But I used to make $50 an hour washing windows, and that's the whole job, inside and outside.
That's awesome.
So I'm doing at least 30 windows an hour, average, 27, 30. And that's taking the screen off, washing the windows, wiping it, putting the screen back in, moving the ladder.
That's pretty damn good.
But and my employees understand all these metrics because I've made sure that, because my goal is to build them up and help them to get their own business going, and not think I need to protect these guys. These are my guys, and I'm not going to tell them anything, and I'm going to keep them on a short leash and well, let them do their own jobs and stuff like that. But that's the way I think, because I think about trying to build them up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through this, and we've got a little bit of time. I'm going to go through this.
So are we doing the application and questionnaire from out of the workbook, or did you change it all up?
I forget I don't remember what the workbook says. What's the workbook say?
Start with your hourly wage. Use an example of your job.
Okay,
illustrate it.
we're gonna do this. Okay, so we're gonna say, because you guys work here now, and you get the benefit of being able to live here and eat here, and
Boarding.
that kind of stuff.
Classes,
And classes,
one-on-one, group.
Jesus.
and you get Jesus, and that's priceless.
Right.
So you're gonna say you're getting paid $15 an hour, and I know that their goal for you guys coming out is a job at least of $15 an hour.
My pockets don't show a salary of $15 an hour.
Well, you're not out of here yet. And I'll tell you, my friend Patrick, I was talking to him about this the other day. He graduated from here almost a year ago, and he made $12 an hour when he got out of here. He got hired by somebody, and he was making $12 an hour. And he has had 3 or 4 jobs during that time, and he's making about $27 an hour right now, and working all the time.
Wait, what's he doing now?
He's an apprentice electrician.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know which Patrick you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So where you start, is not necessarily where you end up. Because in a couple of years he's going to be making, $40 or $50 an hour when he's a
He was
journeyman.
very
Plumbers and
goal-oriented.
electricians.
He was a very driven person.
Make a lot of money.
Yeah,
You know,
but the way to think about this lesson and potential is in your vocation also. Like so when I got out of ComCorp, I had a minimum wage job, and I was living in someone's basement. I had some bags of clothes. And then I got a different job and I made a little bit more than minimum wage. And then I got a different job and made a little bit more above that. And then I started washing windows, and then God grew that business. It didn't start with, I had a whole business. It started with hey, somebody said, hey, do you want to wash windows? I got some jobs you can do, and it'll be sort of a gig, a side gig. And so I did it. Because I just thought, hey man, I'm going to make some side money. This is great. I didn't think I'm going to be doing this 7 years from now.
And that was
7 years from now, I'm going to have two guys that are out working, you know, and they started with me in June, and except for a couple of days here and there, they have worked pretty consistently since June to now. And we did power washing, we did window cleaning, we did chimney sweeping, we did gutter cleaning. So, you know, it's a whole spectrum of stuff you can do. So when you think, hey, I only know, you know, fire safety stuff, that's or carpentry stuff, that doesn't, you don't have to be limited to that fire safety stuff. You don't have to be limited to thinking I can only do fire safety stuff.
Right. That's why I'm going off in a different direction.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I mean?
and you can do
I've
your
done it
artwork
for
now.
15 years, fire
Yeah.
sprinkler, fire alarm, fire extinguisher, fire pump, fire hydrant.
Yep.
Done it
You
all.
you have
As a fire
potential
protection.
to do other things as well. All right, so we're gonna do this little exercise, and then we'll get lunch. So you're getting paid $15 an hour, and some of this is already done. $5 is your governmental cost. So how much is that combined? 20. All right. So your overhead is $20 an hour.
What do you mean your government costs?
Social security taxes,
Okay.
workers' comp, things like that. Workers' comp, by the way, can be almost as much as your pay, depending on what type of work you do. If you do something that's dangerous, your workers' comp expenses can be, I mean, a lot. They can be a lot.
And you get hit pretty hard on going, what do you guys use, 30-foot ladders sometimes?
We use pole systems, water-fed pole systems, so we're on the ground. But there is ladder work involved,
Oh, okay.
and that does make it a lot more expensive.
Yeah, just 6 feet, it's OSHA deal, you
Yeah.
gotta be out.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the question on there again? I forget.
Start with your hourly wage, or
Okay.
use an example from part one, created illustrations of, yeah, start with your hourly wage.
Okay, so your overhead is $20 an hour. Okay, so whatever job you're doing, so we're gonna stick with the window cleaning thing.
Yep.
And this is easy to understand because everywhere there's a window, like I would be at jobs and I would be able to know exactly how much value this guy has created because I can count. And it's like you've washed 8 windows in an hour. You did $12 worth of work. I'm paying you $20. And so it's like, all right, so I'm losing $8 an hour. So it's easy. It's an easy illustration. And that, let me say this, and that has happened. I have been in jobs and counted like the number of windows and been like, you've done $12 worth of work, you smoked 2 cigarettes and made 3 phone calls.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Would that change something if they were awesome and he was working hard?
Absolutely, and they would get paid more, or they'd get some sort of incentive in it.
Even if there only being 8 windows in an hour?
Oh no,
When
no, they would be fired.
Yeah.
They would be done. And I've trained. So the guys that I've got now, I trained from the beginning to like this is a squeegee, and now they're working. They're on their own. They're probably making about $35, $40 an hour. You know, when they have their own jobs now, so they know what they're doing.
Wow.
So how much productivity do you have to have at 1.5? You know what? I'm gonna change this. So if I charge $2 per window, how many windows do you need to clean an hour? 10. All right, exactly. So you have to equal 10. Okay, so if you're cleaning 10 windows an hour, the employee is breaking even. How much money am I making?
Zero.
About a dollar.
Zero. I'm
Negative.
not making $1.
It's negative, yeah.
Okay, how much do they need to, how many more windows do they need to clean an hour for me to make $10? Yeah,
20.
They need to do 10 more?
5 more.
Five more?
5
Okay.
more to make $10.
Okay, so for me to make $10 an hour,
What are those?
they need to do 5 more windows. So they have to do 15 windows,
Which would
An
be
hour.
$30 an hour.
which would be $30 an hour, exactly. So then they produce 30 an hour. All right, is that understandable enough?
But that's just even in the fact that you have an unlimited windows of hours to be going on. Like, how many jobs do you have? Because the job ends probably pretty quick and you gotta go to the next one, right?
Yeah, this is just an illustration.
Okay, okay.
This is an illustration, okay. So then there's costs, okay? So I'm paying, this is pay and government. Okay, and then there's materials. So let's say that it costs me $3 a day for materials, steel wool, Dawn. This doesn't include gas to get to jobs. This doesn't include other miscellaneous stuff.
Do the guys use their own vehicles, or do you have vans and?
I have a truck,
Yeah.
and typically we go together.
It's a little bit off, but, how many windows, you say you do like everything of windows? Like, what's like an average of a house having windows? Like, how many windows would be on a house?
Well, most people that get their windows cleaned, first off, you're looking at a subset of people,
Okay.
but it'd be about $200, might be an average size house. So, let's say that means that they have 50 windows, 50 on the outside, 50 on the inside. Just to stick with this illustration and this price.
Are these nice houses? They sound like it.
Yeah, they're nicer. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
this is a luxury expense.
Yeah.
So
People
okay.
are paying to have their windows cleaned.
Yeah.
So they're probably doing all right.
Yeah. So
You know,
so let's say that I spend $3 a day in materials. So that comes off of this. So okay. So that's in addition to that. Okay, so does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say they work 8 hours a day, and I'm making $10 an hour. So I make $80, right? After 8 hours, minus $3 for the material. So I end up making $77 a day. Okay, let's say that's half of that. Let's say it was a bad day and they only made $32. Or I only made $32. Are y'all following the illustration at all?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just crazy.
piece
Yeah.
of cake. So they had a bad day, you made $32
Yeah.
instead of 77.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I still made $32, but if I went and did it myself, and just did it all myself, at some point there is a break even, where it's like it would be, I might as well do this by myself, and not pay anybody, and not have a headache, and just keep all the money. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Now, some things you just can't do this in, and this illustration isn't going to go for every type of job.
Yeah, you must just like, how often do you look?
I figure this out every day at jobs. I figure this out during the job while I'm there. How much is am I getting paid at this job? How long is this job taking us? How much am I going to make today? And I have a set amount that I need to make every day. So I have a budget. There's a budgeting chapter in this book.
Mm-hmm.
I have a budget. I know exactly how much I need to make every day to make my budget. So
this is so you're talking about like a yearly budget or monthly?
Daily.
So I take a month. So you can take a monthly budget, So you add everything up. Let's say that my monthly expenses are $3,200. This is not what it is, but I'm just using around, or let's say 3,000. Make it even.
A little
okay?
easier.
Okay, so there are 21 work days a month. So that's easy. So you divide 3,000 by 21. So there's 4 weeks in a month, and there's a couple extra days. So 21, 22 work days in a month. So you divide that by 21 or 22.
So now like 14.
Okay. And let me.
It's 12 something.
So, and I have done this exercise with both my workers, so they know exactly how much they need to make a day. So let's say 3,000 divided by 22.
21.
3,000 divided by 21 is 142. So I need to make $142 a day, each work day, to stay on my budget. So
Profit.
if I'm making $32 an hour on them, am I gonna make $142?
Yeah, 32.
If you're making $32 an hour?
46.
No, a day.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No. If they both make 77,
Yeah.
so 77 times 2,
154.
154. So that if they both stay on schedule, I make 154 a day. So I end up having a profit of what, $12. So I pay my bills and I make $12. And that doesn't include, like, I have I have general liability insurance. I've got other costs that go along that aren't included in this illustration. But
How many months do you get scared of these numbers coming up?
so I
Really, really. You know? It's scary.
well, the point of this illustration, the point of this exercise is so you start thinking about you and the value you're creating at work. And so you can talk to your employer about what you're doing so you can get the benefit of when he's making money. There's been days that I've made $700, $800 a day. Okay, so that $142 a day, I'm not worried about that typically. Go ahead.
Do you always work off bids, or do you sometimes say, this is what, if you want us to do this, this is what it's going to cost you an hour?
No, I've never done that.
So you just do bidding?
I just do bidding. I tell them what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then I've done this long enough to have metrics, and I pay attention to how long, how quick my workers go.
Yeah.
And so I can estimate this will take us. So they're at a job right now. It's about a $200 job. I think it'll take them about 2.5, 3 hours to do.
Okay.
And on Fridays when I teach, they get 80% of that. I get 20%. So I'll get $40. They'll get 160 that they'll split, and then they've got another job after it
Sure.
to do. That's their own job that they got, and they're going to go do it. And if it's a $200 job, then they'll split. They'll get 100 each.
So you're talking like a 235 day, which is pretty solid. I mean, roughly somewhere in there between both jobs.
Yeah, yeah. So their daily overhead's like $80. So they're definitely above what they need to do.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
So
But you bid in so that you don't screw yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a market. There is what the market will bear.
yeah, sure.
Okay, and it's a free market, and I've told my guys this when we go do jobs, because they initially worried about, like, I'd tell somebody, hey, that house is going to be $300, and they'd worry about it, like, man, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, yeah, it is, and I'm definitely not paying $300 to get my windows cleaned. But they got a house that's got so many windows, and it's that many windows times X amount, and that's a metric, and that's what it is. And it's a free market, and if they don't like it, they can negotiate. They can haggle, or they can call somebody else,
Exactly.
and that's a free market.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's required to use me
Sure.
to wash windows.
You know, that's how they do it, like, I've seen guys bid for fire sprinkler when I was doing that, like the supers, trying to get a
Mhm.
ballpark, and they do, by square footage or length times width
Mm-hmm.
of specific areas and stuff
Yeah.
like that, different zones, different,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, commodities and stuff.
Well, like in your
Structural.
business, there's different terrains. If
Yep.
it's on a freaking mountainside or
Yep.
something like that, like,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta think.
You can
with
add
all that
something.
stuff.
So there was a job that I was
Or if
asked.
it's just nice and flat.
There's a job that I was asked to go do up in Crystal Park, which I don't know if you all know where that is, but it's up on the side of.
Yeah.
It's up on the side of.
That's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's up on the side of Pikes Peak. It's about 10,000 feet. It's about 15 degrees cooler up there.
That's where you take a left,
So-
if you're going up towards Woodland Park, you take a left right there, that's road that branches off.
You can actually see the zigzag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
it's
the-
up on
on-
top of the switchback.
Yeah, like there's a whole neighborhood. There's a whole community back there.
Yeah, that's where that Ferris wheel is and stuff.
No, I don't know. That's a different place.
That's the part.
You gotta remember, the place you're talking about has some of the most prestigious homes built
Yeah.
in
But
the city.
but I added because it's a trip up there. I added $50 just to go up there,
There's
and I'm sure that
hundreds
people
of
charge
great
more
homes.
than that to go up there.
So you have a lot of competition though, because it's basically like, just like all the little house cleanings they got here in town. Like there's a lot of people that do windows, or
Yeah,
you,
it's
are
some.
you pretty busy?
They're building houses like crazy.
Yeah, so you're pretty busy then.
Yeah, let me pray for it. Does anybody have any other
This class is
questions about it?
pretty cool. No,
Yeah.
I like this class.
Yeah, thanks. Let me pray for us, and then we'll get some lunch. Father, I thank you for these men, Lord. I ask that you would build them up into the men that you see them to be, Father, that who you call them to be, Father. And I ask that you would develop them in their potential, Lord. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Thanks, John.